And I think it just shows it's essential that we're keeping up with the evidence and
Mhm.
all the amazing education courses that are out there. It's a must do when you're doing our job, right?
You're listening to the Active Mom Podcast with host Dr. Carrie Pagliano. I'm a mom, physical therapist, and your go-to guide for staying active with pelvic health issues in pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, and beyond. Whether you're a fellow mom, physical therapist, or women's health professional, join me where I'll share expert insights, real-life stories, and the latest research to help you approach running, CrossFit, yoga, Pilates, HIIT, or whatever activity you love with confidence and evidence-informed guidance. Let's start the show. All right, welcome back to the Active Mom Podcast. I am so excited about the conversation this morning. She is a two-time guest on the podcast. You might know her from the 2019 Postpartum Return to Run UK Guidelines, 2024 Delphi, you name it. And today we're going to talk a lot about soccer, aka football, which I know nothing about. Emma Brockwell, welcome to the show.
A two-timer. I can't believe that. Oh, that's such an honor. Yeah, this is my first solo though. So this
Yeah.
is with Ronja Donnelly.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it must have been a few years ago, and here
Mhm.
we are. You're still going. I love
Still
this.
going. And we're just about, probably by the time this runs, we're gonna be over 100,000 downloads, which is really exciting. Yeah, and over 200 episodes, so
That's insane.
it's
Well,
cool, right?
congratulations. I
Thank
hope
you.
you're proud.
Thank you. Well,
I,
I feel like this conversation, we've been trying to plan this since last year.
I, Well, here's the thing. People that know me know that I'm not very good with my comms. And I also actually, the irony is, I used to do a podcast with Grania.
That's right.
Um, and I used to get so nervous about doing it.
Yeah.
One of the reasons it stopped was because I get such bad anxiety around doing podcasts, the irony. But that's partly in this instance because I do fangirl you, Carrie. I do, even though I've met you now in real
I know.
life back in June.
That was so fun.
Which that was so nice. We were at
Yeah.
the female
Catholic
athlete
conference.
house
Yep.
conference, weren't we?
Yep.
And it was just joyful because Christina Previtt was there, you were there, Julie Weed was there, Margie Davenport was there, it was
We
Rita Shafali. Oh my
yeah.
god, it was all the cool gang.
Yep. I got to meet Paris. That was awesome. She's
Oh,
so
she's
cute
just brilliant. We'll
and
talk
so
about her, I'm
smart.
sure.
Yes.
She's so smart. She is just one to watch. So although I've met you in real life and know what a just adorable, amazing person you are, I'm still a bit scared of doing this.
We just and meanwhile, we just talked like a half an hour before we hit record, so we're just hanging out. We're just hanging out.
Well, yeah,
Alright,
we're
if
just
no
talking.
if somebody's living under a rock and they have no idea where you are and kind of what you've been doing the last however many years, where do you live? Where do you work out of? And then, what are some of the kind of the playgrounds you play on and the organizations you're working with right now?
Yeah. So, well, professionally, I'm a pelvic health physio and have been for more years than I will admit to
You
because
can say it.
over 15 now. I mean, I've been a physio for over 20 years,
Mhm.
maybe 25. But I
We're the
feel
same
so
vintage, my
old.
friend.
Oh, we must be similar because I'm 46 and
Oh,
you're
almost.
43,
You're so
42.
sweet. I'm almost 50.
Oh, I'm younger than you. Oh, I
You
love
are.
that.
Thank you for the 43. That was
Ah,
delightful. Thank
no,
you.
I really did think you were younger than me because also, as I'll talk about, I work in an environment where everyone's so young and considers me very old. So it's very nice to speak to someone who's a little bit older than
I'm
me.
your
And
I'm your your elder.
well, you're much wiser than me as well. But yeah, I feel like I've been around the block a few times
Yeah,
in the sense of our profession.
yeah.
And for a very long time, I was in clinic loving every minute, really passionate, particularly about the perinatal period, and still am. I wrote a book to try and help educate and support women who really didn't have access to the likes of us. And that really came around because of COVID, and no one had that much access to
Right.
us at all, other than online, which was brilliant. And as we know, is still brilliant. But yes, I wrote that book, and then obviously wrote, or not obviously, but I co-authored the Return to Running Guidelines with Tom Goom and Grania Donnelly. And that snowballed, that little white paper. I mean, right time, right place,
Yep.
right subject. There was
Yep.
clearly a desperate want for that sort of information. And I actually think we've probably been in touch on and off since then,
Yeah.
because you were so inquisitive and curious and really constantly with your critical thinking asking us, what about this? What about that? What about this? And it's like, yeah, actually, she's got a good point. But we got the conversation started at
Yeah.
least.
That was such a
Um,
great pivot
well,
point.
yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of strange how these things happen, isn't it? I mean, it
Mhm.
just pure lot of luck as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've still sort of dabble in the world of research, if you like, but I wouldn't consider myself a researcher. I'm very much a clinician. And over the past few years, I have ventured into the world of soccer, or football, as we in the UK call it. I'm based in the UK. And so I'm now, I've kind of another iteration of my career. I'm now a consultant for various clubs in what we call the Women's Super League, WSL, in the
Mhm.
UK. So I consult across 5 of those clubs, and I also work with quite a lot of pregnant and postpartum players across the globe, really, to try and offer them support, whilst dabbling in a little teeny tiny bit of research with FIFA, and working with Eva Casagrande, Dr. Sinead Dufour, who I think you might know,
Yeah.
and Dr. Margie Davenport. So yeah, I mean, just a really cool, lucky career, and I feel like I'm very much still on the learning curve. There's
Yeah.
so much is changing, so much is evolving, but I'm
Yeah.
lucky to be a small part of it for sure.
Yeah, no, I was just talking with, messaging with Christina, and I was like, I feel like the longer I've been doing this, the less I feel like I know because I'm not looking at things at all like I did 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and I feel like I'm drinking from the fire hose, and it makes me think like, "Oh my gosh, 25 years in, how terrifying, but also how exciting to still be learning and still feel like you're evolving and growing, and that's the coolest thing I think about this space is, like, you and I both know that, like, there's so much more work to do.
Oh, I mean, we are just on the cusp,
Yeah,
literally for an iceberg, we're only on what we can see.
yeah,
God knows what's beneath it. Which I think is really cool. And I really enjoy your posts on Instagram where you talk about kind of like the old way we did things and really how we should be now thinking.
yeah,
I think as a clinician, if you're new in this, or even if you're as long toothed as I am, I think it can also be really overwhelming because,
yeah,
I get terrible imposter syndrome and I think, oh my God, I really thought I knew all of that then. And now everyone's changing it. And I don't want you to change it because I just understood that.
yeah,
So I think it's really difficult, especially as a newbie. I think it's really difficult.
right.
But really exciting as well. And I think it just
Yeah,
shows it's essential that we're keeping up with the evidence and
mhm.
all the amazing education courses that are out there. It's a must do when you're doing our job, right?
Yeah, very much so, and that's why I feel like, this conversation talking about, soccer, football, we'll interchange, with that, is just so interesting, like, if you go back to, when we were in Boston, last summer at the Female Athlete Conference, I feel like there's number 1, we have so many more women's sports teams emerging, and then we're having the conversations of, "Okay, well, how do we meet their general needs?" But now they're pros and they wanna get pregnant and they want to still play and they wanna be postpartum and still play, and this was not a conversation we could have had 5 to 10 years ago. But then in between that, you have all these different sports and all the different demands of the sport, and, what's been the learning curve, going into soccer, and, like, what do you feel like you're bringing to it as a general understanding, and then where do you feel like, there's some things that are super unique to soccer itself?
I mean, I got lucky, I guess, in the sense of I got approached by a physio who worked at Chelsea. She approached me because they had their first pregnant player,
Mhm.
and they never worked with a pregnant
Right.
footballer before. And so her name is Laura Bettinelli, the physio. She's awesome. She still works there. And she just said, "Can you come along, assess Melanie Loopholes, who was the player?" and maybe just sort of collaborate a little bit with us
Yeah.
in supporting her pregnancy. So I did, and we then realised collaboratively that she needed more than just one appointment with pelvic health
Mm,
physio lens on her, and ended up seeing her every week. And then obviously joined her postpartum journey as well. And what was really cool about that at the time was that the manager there was Emma Hayes. Have you heard of Emma
I have heard
Hayes?
of it, yeah. Mhm.
So, Emma Hayes is now the for you guys in the US, is the US manager, right? So
Yep.
she's pretty big news,
Mhm.
and she is amazing. She utterly thinks through and with a female health lens, and she said, "Hang on a minute. If you're doing this for Melanie, do we need to be thinking about offering pelvic health for other players?"
Mm,
And I said, "Oh, yes, Emma, you are speaking my language. Of course we do." Because lo and behold, pelvic floor dysfunction doesn't just impact our pregnant or postpartum players, it
right,
also impacts any one of our players,
right.
be it younger or older. So thankfully, she got it and said, "Right, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you come in once a month and just see what you can do with the players?" And that was the first season I was with Chelsea. And then venturing into the second year, another player at Arsenal, another club, the WSL, got pregnant, and they said, "Oh, well, can you come and help us as you helped Chelsea?" And I said, "Yep, no problem." And similarly, they said, "Well, why don't we just shine a pelvic health lens on the players here as well?"
Mm,
Um, and in the meantime, Chelsea were getting the fact that actually I was probably needed once a week there.
yeah.
And so that was a couple of years ago now. And as I said, I'm working within 5 clubs now, but
Wow.
it's like everyone's getting that light bulb moment of, oh, actually, you know what?
Mhm.
There's something in this. Every girl, every woman
Yeah.
should ideally, when they're playing sport, have a pelvic health lens shone on them.
Mhm.
And if it's not to improve pelvic floor symptoms that they might be experiencing, perhaps it's also to optimize their pelvic health so that they don't get any pelvic floor symptoms.
Right.
Um, so it's been a real kind of slowly, it's not happened overnight. The only thing I see happening a little bit at the moment is we might be at risk of it becoming a bit of a tick box. Well, we know we need to talk about pelvic health. We haven't
Yeah.
really got the money. We haven't really got
Right.
pelvic health physios there to help us. But at least if we're screening and acknowledging this thing,
Yeah.
then at least we feel like we're ticking a box because we recognise it as a female health domain that's important.
Right.
So I think we've still got a long way to go in how this fits into the medical lens in a
Mhm.
in a club, but also how it fits into the performance lens as well. And I think with the medical lens, we're getting there. The performance lens, we are way off. And I mean
Yeah.
that, like, I don't know the
Yeah.
answers. I
No,
don't know
I think a lot
how
of us don't.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, but how cool is that we can explore that? But
Right.
we've got a long way to go when it comes to the performance side of things, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree, and but how cool that the catalyst for having the conversation is pregnancy postpartum, because if that wasn't even on the table, we wouldn't be having this conversation either. But, we get into performance. I have to imagine with a lot of these players, they're looking ahead at longevity in the sport. Are we gonna shift eventually in talking about perimenopause and menopause? Like, I feel like once you start that, like, you start that first domino,
Yeah.
ideally, maybe not as fast as we would like, but, like, the rest start to fall, and we've seen that in other sports. I think they talked about that with, like, world tennis at the female athlete conference and how they
Yes,
do
they did.
their, pelvic health it is part of their pre-screen, but they have, like what do you remember? It was, like, this really big organized, everybody gets screened pre-season, do all
Oh,
the
it's
things
incredible.
together.
They get
Yeah.
breast health,
Yep.
smears, obviously they get all their bloods, they get all of
Yep.
their pelvic health screening as well. It's a whole package, really, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Um, and that creation, I can't for the life of me think of what they called it, but they identified one of the players through her breast screening who had
Right,
breast
yep.
cancer, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, and so it's not just important, it's life-saving, this
Right.
this 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 approach that we
Yeah.
have to all be taking. um I just think we have to make sure that we're doing it the right way and is and in as full a way as possible. If we could all
Mhm.
be offering female athletes that level of package, oh my
Right.
goodness,
Right.
what game changing, life changing
Well, and just
ultimately.
valuing females as professional athletes, and then obviously that trickling down to, our rec athletes or amateurs and that sort of thing. With soccer, and again, I know nothing about it, but I do know that you kind of participated in a paper on this, looking particularly at contact sports.
Mhm.
Um, how did you even I mean, how where do you even begin with that? Because I would think everybody's first gut fear-based opinion would be, "Oh, contact, no, we can't do that. You're pregnant. Hurt the baby, hurt you," that sort of thing. Like, I feel like there's a lot of barriers that you would have to jump over to even ask that question. How did you guys kinda go about, kinda looking at that?
Yeah, so that came about from a conversation that I was having with Margie and Sinead in
Mhm,
Switzerland when we were over doing some work for FIFA.
mhm,
And I had a player contact me who was 13, no, she was 11 weeks pregnant,
mhm.
and she was desperate to play the final game of the season. But the day
Oh,
she'd have played it, she'd have been 12 and a half or 13 weeks
mhm.
pregnant, I think.
Okay.
And she said, "Oh, I've been playing. I feel great. I feel fine." Because ultimately, we encourage women to stop contact after their first trimester. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
players will decide to do that a lot sooner, and
Before.
that's absolutely
Yeah.
okay. But she said to me, why is it that I'd be okay to play now at 11 and a half weeks pregnant, but
And
in a
not
week and
tomorrow.
a half's
Yeah.
time, what's the difference? What shifted? And I said this to Margie, and I was like, it's such a good point, though, isn't it? Why have we got
Mhm,
such a hard cutoff at 12 weeks? And so Margie, being Margie, went and did some investigating. And she was
mhm.
like, do you know what? We have come up with that 12-week rule from nowhere. Well, kind of from nowhere. In
Yeah.
fact, what she found is that that was extrapolated advice based on some baboons who were, unfortunately, bless them, used as crash test dummies in a
Oh,
car.
good.
But I know it's awful when pregnant to assess the use of seatbelts when pregnant and what should and shouldn't be used in for to be adequately useful in a car crash. God
Oh
forbid it
my
happen.
gosh.
So based on that, obviously they found that pregnant baboons were losing their babies um, around about 12 weeks pregnant with the use of these seatbelts. And that's where that rule came from. It was based
Oh my
on
gosh.
something that was much more forceful than contact sport,
Mhm.
or football in particular. And it was based on this kind of timeline, just because the baboon happened to be 12 weeks pregnant at the time.
Mm.
Um, and so she said, "Do you know what? I think we just say a lot of no's in pregnancy because we just don't know,
Mhm,
rather than actually basing it on good, strong evidence."
mhm.
And so we thought, well, let's see what athletes do. Let's actually see, do athletes go ahead and continue their
Yeah.
contact sports, and what happens? And so
Yeah.
it was a survey based paper, and what we essentially deduced from, I think we had 400 participants,
Oh, wow.
was that, I'm not going to give numbers because I can't remember, but a huge percentage continued contact sports,
Mm,
um, and with no adverse effects. I think there was one person out of all of that that had slight adverse effects, but thankfully no loss of life to mother or baby.
mhm.
And actually, those athletes who continued contact sport, fortunately, also had better mental health as well.
Yeah, imagine that.
Ugh, go figure. So, what we were able to then say is, actually, you might be able to continue an element of contact during
Yeah.
pregnancy. We don't have enough research at all, and I'm not saying that this paper then suddenly goes, right, just do what you want to do,
Right.
go wild, because that's not what we're saying. But what it's allowed us to do is see potentially that you might be able to do more than you think.
Yeah.
And so, based on that, what we've been able to say is, if you modify your contacts, keep it really low level, be
Mhm.
a neutral player in soccer, so not someone that's going to have the ball walloped at them,
Yeah.
etc., etc. but keep a component of football within your training throughout pregnancy, you're
Yeah.
probably going to improve your mental health, and you're probably going to improve your physical health as well,
Yeah.
so long as everyone around you is sensible. And there is so much more research that's needed. I'm not sitting here saying that that's not the case, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that the problem in pregnancy is we just say blanket no to everything based on nothing
Right.
sometimes. And that's really frightening, because you think of the damage we potentially are doing to women's physical and mental health based on not knowing. It's
Yeah.
just not okay. When was that okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it just shows how far behind we still are with our pregnancy research and how much more work needs to be done. But it's kind of cool that we can now say, actually, we've got a little bit more
Yeah.
information for you here, and we can give
Right.
you a little bit more support if you have the adequate support around you ultimately.
Right. No, I feel like there's so many patterns here, and I'm sure you recognize them as well, that we've seen, as far as running in pregnancy, weightlifting in pregnancy, all these things that,
Mm,
no, 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 no. And then we have amazing women that I don't know, it's not ignorance. I think it's out of actually good self-awareness and good self-reflection to continue to participate in their sport in a way that they were comfortable with and they felt safe. And now we're going back and surveying them, documenting and saying, "Hey, we have people that are doing this and they're okay. Baby's
yeah.
okay." I feel like it's just more and more sports, and then every sport, like we were saying before, it has like their unique little facets. So like impact here, and I know other people are looking at like karate and jujitsu and kind of all these other things, and then
Yeah.
there's rugby and like all this. Like every sport has their little nuance, but in general, I don't know any mom that's going to go into a sport and say, "Hey, I'm going to put my sport ahead of my baby."
No.
Like so you
Yeah.
have to give them the benefit of the doubt, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I was blown away as to how many women actually did continue the level of contact that they did.
Yeah.
Um, but I think when you're pregnant, you know yourself. And
Yes.
I'll be honest with you, I've worked with an awful lot of pregnant soccer players now. Most of them actually do decide to come away from
Mhm.
football, and they're really comfortable with that. But I
Yeah.
think it's just for the few and far between that want to know, could they, should they,
Yeah.
is it an option that we can explore, rather than just saying no, sorry,
Right.
can't do this.
Yeah.
um and obviously the whole medical team, the whole MDT has to be on board, and
Mhm.
no one's going to go maverick with this sort of
Right. Of
information, and
course.
they shouldn't. We have to think about the whole person, but we have to
Yeah.
think about the individual, and what they need, and
Yeah.
weigh up the pros and cons mentally and physically for that particular player.
Yeah.
And I'm yet still to meet any club or sporting federation that's going to turn around and say, oh, sure, let them play at 28 weeks at the World Cup final. Of course, that's
Yeah.
just not going to happen, because
Yeah.
of insurance, because of
Right.
being sensible. But can we still train you as an
Yeah.
athlete with your sport during pregnancy, so that you
Yeah.
don't lose all of those key essential skills
Right.
that then make your return to play so much harder?
Yeah.
Yes, we can absolutely do that. We can think outside of the box, and we can think about how we make you a neutral player, or
Yeah.
just keep your neurocognitive skills alive during
Right.
pregnancy, so that then when you touch a ball, it's not an alien that you haven't touched for about six
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
And that's where I think there needs to be a sensible hat on this, but there
Mhm.
also needs to be we need to look at things through the athlete's eyes as well. And
Yeah.
I just don't think, when we've got the guidance we've got, is I don't think it's through the eyes of the athlete. I think it's
Mhm.
more through the eyes of what the researchers think we should be looking at.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Margie, for example, is going to do things real different for sure.
Yeah. No, and I love that. There's 2 things I was thinking about as you were chatting. One was how this trickles down to our everyday recreational athlete. And, that person that it's first pregnancy, they're in a rec soccer league, they still want to play, and feel like they can control their ability to go in, out, look at the other team, see if they're crazy or not, like that sort of thing. But like everybody would understand, hey, our player's pregnant, we're gonna be cognizant of it, don't slide tackle her, that sort of thing. I do know slide
Yeah.
tackle. That
Do
one thing,
you?
that's it, that's all
You
I
know
know.
more than you're letting on, I think.
No, I got nothing. But the other thing I was thinking about, and I can't remember where I saw it, you might have posted it, was there was a pregnant player who did, like, she did, like, a sprint time trial, like,
It wasn't me that posted it. It was
it
it
was
was
I
the
saw
athlete
it somewhere and
herself.
I
But
thought of
yeah,
you, I
yeah, you're
think.
right. Yeah.
And she did, like, a sprint time trial, like, beyond 30 weeks pregnant, like, she was pretty pregnant, and girl was fast.
Oh my God, wasn't she?
She was
It
fast.
I I think her name, it's gonna go from my head. It's gone from my head. But do you know how many footballers have spoken to me about her?
Yeah.
And she plays in a club in the US, and of course I can't remember
Mhm.
the name of the club now, but she is very impressive. And I think the people that worked with her probably used some of the research that Margie had done
Mhm.
around high intensity training.
Yeah.
And so, how cool is that? I mean, I think
Right?
she hit 90% or something of her max
Yeah.
heart rate during
Yeah.
that, and she was fine, and baby was fine.
Right.
And that's great, and I think that's so inspiring for other women, be it
Yeah.
elite athlete or not, to see. I think it's really reassuring. I do think we still see a lot of shaming around this
Mhm.
subject.
Yep.
I was only on Instagram this morning, as you do, doom scrolling, and I saw someone, amazing athlete, lifting weights, and
Mhm.
lo and behold, she was being absolutely vilified for it. And then I continued to scroll, and then I saw Christina Previtt's latest post about, no, you can lift if it's the right
Yeah.
thing for you, the
Right.
individual. And so it's difficult because it depends what echo chamber you end up being in on your
Right.
Instagram, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
it totally
and
does.
yeah, and that's the only thing with social media. It just depends where you fall within that as to what
Mhm.
you're going to see. I see really positive stuff about exercise
Mhm.
during pregnancy, typically.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, women athletes or just recreational athletes may not see that. And
Right.
that's what's frightening. And that's why we need to do more
Mhm.
with the research so that we can really ensure that the right messaging is getting out there, because there's still just too much
Yeah.
misinformation around this subject.
Well, and I think depending on what your own thoughts are about that, whether you're educated or not, I think it can look two different ways. Like, I think we also have to step back and be like, hey, am I a pro soccer player? No, that means she has some amazing physical capabilities that I was not genetically or otherwise gifted with. So let's start there instead of comparing, oh, my pregnancy, I couldn't sprint that, but she can. Should she be doing that? Like,
Yeah.
she was like the same thing, when we had, Sophie Carter on, who, Margie did the paper with her on the ultra running, and
Oh,
she
wow, amazing.
totally running, ultras with twins and then another
Oh
pregnancy
my
after
God.
that. She did a faster marathon pregnant than I will ever do in a lifetime.
I know, but it's not fair.
Well, but again, it really is this thing where, and to go back to the beginning part of our conversation, you and I came up in a time in pelvic health where we were saying no out of fear and not out of information. And our kids are similar age, and that was also a lot of the narrative we were getting ourselves and dishing out, and be
Oh,
able
yeah, for
to,
sure.
yeah, and then to be able to look now and be like, "Hey, you know what? The experience is very broadly different. If you have a rough pregnancy and you can't stay as active as you would like, um, we can still work with that, but that can also hold space at the same time that this amazing athlete who has these amazing capabilities that we will never have can still do what works for her." Neither is good, neither is bad. We have to address that individuality of that person in
Yeah.
front of us. And I think to appreciate that, when we historically probably have inadvertently deconditioned a lot of moms, myself
Oh,
included.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think back to my pregnancy. So I had hyperemisis during both of my pregnancies,
Right.
which basically means I was throwing up about 15 times a day.
Yep.
Um, can hand on heart say I've never felt as unwell, and I was a runner prior to that,
Mhm.
and I was desperate. I was pregnant before the real social media of, wanting
Yep,
to
same.
showcase your pregnancy.
Yep,
Thank God.
right?
And I'm so grateful for that. But still in my head, I wanted to be a running mum,
Yeah.
and had no real anxiety around that at all. And then obviously got pregnant and was just so unwell that, to be honest with you, it was such an achievement just to get out of bed and brush my teeth that
Right.
didn't even cross my mind that I needed to run because I just wouldn't have felt well enough. But I think I'm right in saying, and I'm not up to date with my research around this, but I think they're actually showing now that around sort of severe morning sickness or maybe hyperemisis, that exercise, if you can get to it, actually might help reduce the nausea
Yeah,
if you can get onto some really good preemptive or good medication at the time,
right.
to help you manage the symptoms. And honestly, that could have been life changing for me because I was so horribly deconditioned postpartum to the
Yeah.
point where I had terrible back pain, I had pelvic floor symptoms, I was mentally at my lowest ebb. And it's because I didn't have the exercise or even the
Right.
physical activity that I know I needed. And
Yeah.
that's a really depressing when you know you should be doing it, but you just
Mhm.
can't. It's depressing, but it's okay because I was just unwell. But I just do think, we do decondition women, and
Mhm.
ultimately we are seeing in the research that the more conditioned you are in your pregnancy, the better for your postpartum recovery. And it's
Yeah.
okay if you're conditioned. So don't worry, I've been there, and you get it
Right.
back. But
Yeah.
knowing that you really, it's medicine. Exercise is medicine during
Right.
your pregnancy. And
Yeah.
yeah, I still don't feel that message gets out there enough. I really don't.
Yeah. I like your point though of, even if you are deconditioned for whatever reason in pregnancy, you're s that doesn't mean that you're done. That doesn't mean that you
Oh
can't come
God,
back,
no.
and I think that's another thing that I feel like gets mixed up in all this is they're like, "Oh, yeah, exercise, it's good for you, it's good for the baby." What if you can't? And that's where, a lot of us I stopped running, I think it was like 19 weeks with my oldest and barely did anything with my second because I was huge and we had had a miscarriage before and I had a
Oh,
2-year-old and it was just like a whole thing, right? And so but I think women now, when they hear this, there's also a certain percentage of women that are like, "Well, what if I can't? Does that mean
yeah.
my baby's not gonna be healthy? Does that mean that I'm not gonna be able to run?" And so it just I think what's so hard is we have to hold space for all of it and
Yes.
we do not have evidence to say if this is how it goes in pregnancy, it automatically predictates what's going to happen in postpartum and perimenopause and that sort of thing. Like we don't have anything to say that. So as much as your brain wants to, gloom and doom forward and be like, well, if I can't do this, da 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 da, like stop. No, deal with just today in this moment, do the best you can with what you've got, and tomorrow's a new day, and you'll eventually not be pregnant, and we'll deal with it from there, like
You're exactly right, because you may actually be contraindicated to exercise.
yeah.
And despite that, we do
Yep,
still encourage that you're physically active.
yep.
Um, you know, I don't know, take the stairs rather than the lift, for example, at work, ideally. But if you can't because you're throwing up 20 times a day,
Oh my
then
gosh.
you can't. And that's,
No.
you've really drawn the short straw in terms of how poorly you feel. But it you're exactly right. Tomorrow there is another day, and you won't
Yeah.
always be pregnant. And especially if you work with someone who has worked with a lot of postpartum women, like a
Mhm.
pelvic health physiotherapist, they will help support your return to being active or exercising. And I
Yep,
think, I love how things have become very hyper focused around exercise and pregnancy.
yep,
I think it's really important because there's so many myths to bust.
yeah.
But we do need to be mindful, you're exactly right, of those women who simply can't or just simply don't want to exercise.
Great.
And it's
You're allowed.
fine.
That's fine.
Your
The
it's
couch looks
your
nice.
your journey is your journey.
Yeah,
But know that if you can exercise during
yeah,
pregnancy or be physically active and you feel well enough to, it's going to do you wonders, both mentally and
yeah,
physically. So,
yeah.
it's just knowing that, and then you do with that information what you choose to do with that
Right.
information.
And then you can carry that forward to postpartum. I
Mm.
had a conversation with, oh gosh, Jenna Schultz, I guess we
Oh,
just released an episode and we were talking about kind of
cool.
framework to exercise. It's funny, lots of times I think of people by their Instagram handle, and sometimes they do that with you too. I'm like, no, that's not their name. I'm like, run my research. No, that's not it. Um, and but sometimes we push that narrative forward, like, oh gosh, if I can't get back by that 6th week, and sometimes you can't because the baby's not sleeping, or you've got a tongue tie and you've got feeding issues. And one of the things that you dove into with another paper last year was breastfeeding,
Mhm.
and all the guilt traps associated with that. And one of the things people talk about is there an injury link between, breastfeeding
Yeah.
and musculoskeletal issues and all that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what I should absolutely highlight, which I rudely didn't a minute ago, is that Paris Jones is the first author on all of these papers, and she is one of Margie Davenport's students. And oh my god, this
She's
girl
delightful.
is just not only lovely, but she's brilliant as well. So,
Mhm.
have you had her on your podcast yet?
I am trying.
She works for me.
Um, no, no, she's not. She's not worse than
Oh,
you.
no
No,
one's
I
worse than
think
me.
it's one of those things, like, I mean, it's I like I said, don't be nervous chatting to me, like, we're literally just having a conversation. So Paris,
Oh, I'm gonna
come on, we gotta chat.
Paris. Come on, come on. But anyway, when
We've
you
met in
hear from
person
her,
too. I love her. She's
yes.
fantastic. Okay, continue.
So anyway, sorry, I digress. But she's the first author and
Yeah.
has done an amazing job with these papers. But this was born from another conversation that I was having with Margie about an athlete who said, "I really want to breastfeed, but I've heard that because of relaxin, I'm saying the word relaxin, I'm going to get injured, so I
Mhm.
better not breastfeed when I return to play." And I just thought, oh no, this isn't right. We know that that's not the case, but have we got anything to back it up? No.
Right.
So lo and behold, wonderful Paris set about surveying more athletes. And again, I think we had 1,000 participants for this. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry if my numbers are off, but we had a lot of women reply, thankfully.
Mhm.
And I'm delighted to say, what do you think we found?
Let
That
me guess.
there isn't a link between injury postpartum and breastfeeding.
Yeah.
In fact, the link we did find was that, and this is okay if you're not exercising right now during your pregnancy, but if you are less active or able to exercise or decondition during your pregnancy, that's where you're more likely to pick up injury
That makes sense.
over breastfeeding, which
Yeah.
totally makes sense. So it's just another piece of the puzzle to say, hey, listen, pregnancy is a really cool time where we can do a hell of a lot here to really support a woman's body, condition you as well as possible for your postpartum recovery. And good old hormones like relaxin are not going to get in the way and hinder you from an injury point of view,
Yeah.
like perhaps this athlete that I spoke to thought, and certainly many other athletes think as well. So, yes, again, we still need more research around this and more understanding, but we can see that actually the links aren't there. So therefore, let's bust that myth.
Yeah.
And if you want to breastfeed postpartum and if you want to train postpartum, you can do them in tandem. If you want to
Yeah.
bottle feed and train postpartum,
Right.
that's okay as well. But you have a choice. And I
Yeah.
think it's just really nice. It's one less stick for women to beat themselves about with, during the postpartum return to sport or just return
Right.
to life ultimately.
Relaxin, I feel like, has the most underpaid PR team, right? Why is it that every woman, they learn it's like you walk through this portal and you're given your passport, "Welcome to pregnancy. You need to know the word relaxin." Like, everybody knows the
Yes.
word relaxin. But if you look
Yeah.
up, like, go into PubMed and look up relaxin and try and get a sense of, okay, when is it the highest? When is it the lowest? You can't find it. I think there's, like,
You
one paper
so
that I
right.
found, and I think the closest, and tell me what you guys have found, like, the closest I could find was that it levels off maybe around 14 weeks or so in
Yes, that's what we
pregnancy,
found.
but it's not a primary issue in postpartum, but yet so many doctors say, "Well, it should get better after you stop breastfeeding because of the relaxin. I was like, what a
Oh,
BS. Like, yay, relaxin, your PR team is awesome, but it's not even remotely close to the truth.
yeah.
Why do we keep passing along this old wives' tale?
Yeah, I that's actually one I don't know where
I don't
that's come
either.
from. I suspect it's from it's like the paper you just mentioned. It's probably from that one little paper, and it's exploded similarly to the baboon paper.
Right.
One minute you've got this little paper that's not even designed. I know the relaxing one would have been around probably pregnancy, but or postpartum.
Yeah.
But what the hell? I think
Right.
really sleep is probably more of an issue, or lack
Right.
of, in terms of injury. We just I think we overcomplicate a lot of this stuff, and
Hmm.
it's simple. If you aren't getting enough sleep, and if you are essentially burning the candle at both ends, if you are not fueling very well, if you are not
Yeah.
looking after yourself very well, which is inevitable postpartum, especially with your first baby, well,
Hmm.
maybe even with your third or fourth, of course, because you've got so many other little mouths to feed and what have you. But
Right.
your body's an engine. It needs fuel, it needs rest, it needs time to recover. And if you
Yeah.
haven't got those things happening in your life, then you're probably going to injure or feel
Yeah.
utterly rubbish. And
Yeah.
I don't know why we haven't thought more about those obvious things than this little hormone that's got, as you said, way too much PR.
Yeah.
The mind boggles. But
Hmm.
ultimately, we know from all of this sleep research that's coming out just how very important it is that we are looking after
Right.
postpartum women and
Yeah.
helping them recover and optimize their recovery as best as possible. And I think a little bit more focus on the positives of what someone can do in order to get back to whatever state of living they want,
Hmm.
then that would be much more helpful than saying, well, that little hormone that really no one's really that worried about is obviously not causing as big a problem as we thought.
Right. Well, I feel like it's one of those things where like, oh, well, it's relaxing, can't do anything about it. And and that's somehow easier than addressing the issues at hand. Like, hey, why are you not getting sleep? Does your baby need help? Like,
Mm.
I feel like those are the first conversations and referrals that I have with my postpartum clients, because my oldest did not sleep the first 5 years of his life. Fortunately, he
Oh
does
God.
now, which is, at 15, he sleeps till 11 on
How good
weekends,
of
which
him.
is right. I was like, "Great," a little late, but I'll take it. He took a nap the other day. Oh my god, it was so cute. I took a picture, I'm like, "Oh, look at
Oh.
you, you're napping. You never did this when you were little."
Oh, I love that. I love that. Because I love the fact as well that you're finding your 15-year-old cute, because I look at my 12-year-old, this is sorry, I'm just totally
You're
digressing, but
fine, you're good.
I look at my 12-year-old and I just think, "Oh, you're so cute." And no one else in the world probably thinks he's cute. But you definitely I never thought I'd find a 12-year-old cute, but it's nice that as mums we still think of them as cute, right?
You still like, he's taller than me now, but, like, he was,
Oh,
you can still see the
oh,
baby in the
don't.
cheeks, even though he's starting to shave now and things like that, but you can still see the baby in it,
Oh, I
but no,
love
like,
that.
I feel like I'm so sensitive to that because it was I mean, if I go back and look at that, unfortunately, my daughter was complete opposite,
Oh, wow.
um, I didn't sleep and my mental health was not great, but it was a narrative that, like, I remember thinking that I did something wrong and that I
Oh,
couldn't figure it out and I didn't have the right book and I've come to realize that this is my kid. I needed to figure out what his needs were and, and I've had a lot of time to practice that now, but at the time, and if this is your first, but I think we're just
gosh.
taught that, oh, well, this it's like a hazing ritual. It's like you
Yeah,
either pull the good stick or the short stick, and apparently I
yeah.
pulled a very, very short stick, but,
Oh, you
like
did, didn't you? Out of interest, was your postpartum
yeah.
recovery better with your second?
Oh, loads, loads.
Mm,
But a lot of different
a lot of
reasons,
different reasons,
but
yeah.
her sleeping allowed I mean, he's lucky he has a sister, let's just put that one out there for what it was. But no, like, I mean,
Oh,
she's I wrote, like, multiple conference presentations when she was a newborn because she just slept all day and she slept at night, and I remember, what was hard was when she was an infant and my husband traveled, I'd be like, "Okay, well, if she wakes up, I have to feed her, but he's gonna wake up too.
mhm, mhm.
I'm really not gonna get sleep," and that's just how you survive, and now looking back on that, like, I have so much sympathy for that former me because, yeah, exercise did
Brutal.
not come after the second for a while
No,
because
no,
and
and
I'm
I think
proud of
you're right,
myself for not doing that because I think I would have messed something up, you know?
definitely. And I think that's the thing. There's so much emphasis now again on social media about the importance of, returning to sport or play or
Yeah.
whatever, um, after having a baby. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of pressure on women to make sure that they do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And if you just aren't getting the right nutritional, the right food, the right
Yeah.
supplements, the right sleep, then it's really difficult. And that's something we have to bear in mind when I work with the elite athletes, because it, one of the things that they find the hardest is the lack of sleep. We
Yes.
formulate these wonderful return to play programs, and on paper it should all be perfect, but
Mhm.
then baby doesn't sleep very well, and then
Mhm.
that really impacts them the next
Yep.
day. Then of course what we also have to factor in with these athletes is travel as well. So if
And
they're
time zones. Yeah.
traveling and time
Yep.
zones, but also where baby and partner, or baby and
Yeah.
nanny sleep, because
Yep.
actually they can't. I mean, these players are really lucky because they have their own planes to get to,
Mhm.
different countries to play football. But can baby really go on the plane with the other players? Because it's not just going to impact mum's sleep; it's
It's
going
gonna
to
affect
impact all of the
everybody.
players' sleep if baby's crying.
Oh, wow.
So we have to think about that, and that financial cost as well is
A
massive.
lot. Yeah.
And where's baby going to sleep? Because baby can't really sleep in the room with partner when they're
Mhm.
traveling, because they're going to keep mum awake for the game the next day. So we're going to have to invest in another room for baby and partner to sleep in.
Right.
And so it's, all of
Complicated.
these is so complicated.
Yeah.
And yet you open your Instagram and you see these awesome, incredible women back on pitch in 5 or 6 months, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And but it's complex. There's a
Yep.
lot of logistics, and no one's ever going to talk about that because it's not as pretty and cool to talk
Yeah.
about that. But the reality is, it takes a village to return to that level of play postpartum. And
Yeah.
so if you are someone who's listening who just had a baby and you just want to get out for a jog around the block, be nice to yourself, because some of
Yeah.
these athletes have had
Yep.
so much support and so much input. They have food made for them. They don't get me wrong, they're remarkable and I'm in awe of
Mhm.
them, but it takes a village for that
Yeah.
level of return to play to happen as well.
Right.
And I just think we forget to showcase that when it comes to
Yeah.
social media. And that's a lot of pressure on women then. So we
I
need to be mindful of that.
I feel like I'm seeing it in other spaces. I see more pro runners talking about that
Yes.
have been in the space a little bit longer. We have an Olympic bobsledders. I'm gonna hopefully not mess up her name. Elena Myers Taylor or Taylor Myers. Like she just made, I think, her fifth Olympic team, and she's
Oh,
got two
wow.
young boys with special needs. And she's very documented about kind of bring her kids all over the world to the bobsled courses and things like that. Like those are the stories. And I think what gets missed in that too is yes, they have all this extra, but I think people assume that they have the answers and they have all the things. And if you talk to a lot of these athletes, I think, and I'd be curious your thought about soccer players because I hear a lot in runners is a lot of them came from a space when they were younger of you need to be thin to play this sport. There might have been introduction of questionable nutrition, eating disorders, those sorts of things. When they're developing bone, they go through pregnancy, potentially navigating bone stress injuries. They're lactating. We don't know kind of how many calories they need to train and
Yeah.
lactate and not end up with energy deficiency and things like that. I know culturally there's some sports that have more of that prevalence of that history and those concerns. Is soccer one of those or not
Mm.
so much?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely see players experiencing low energy availability,
Yeah.
red S. Yeah, unfortunately,
Oh,
it is there. I think it's so much better than it was though.
yeah.
Um, the the understanding is there. I mean, at Arsenal, at Chelsea, for example, they have amazing nutritionists. They
That's
have
awesome.
amazing chefs. They have amazing psychological support as well. And so there's better understanding around red S now,
Yeah,
and potential eating disorders as well.
yeah,
But it a group of women, aesthetically, they have to potentially have a certain look. There's a lot of
yeah,
media pressure. There's a lot
yep,
of trolling with these poor women on social media around how they look. And so it's inevitable. I don't think we're ever going to get away from it,
yeah,
unfortunately. But
yeah,
I do also know that I do some work with the academies as well in these
yeah,
clubs. And honestly, the educational support around these subjects is getting so much
that's
better.
awesome.
And so therefore we are seeing, and I really hope we are going to see in the next 5 to 10 years an improvement around that. And obviously
Mhm.
the research around that is improving. So, all the work with the IC have done around red
Yep,
S. But it's frightening. It does worry me. It worries me if I think about my daughter. She wants to be a
mhm.
runner. That's her dream. Um,
Aw,
and I think, oh God, I don't know. I don't know if I want you to be, because I don't know what the ethos is like amongst the coaches. I don't know what the
mhm.
education is like. Is it there? And I do think at grassroots level and in the poorly
Yeah,
funded sports, that would concern me still more
yeah.
when it comes to
Well,
eating and what have you.
and that's where I think, even I think if you have kids entering sports, and my daughter's 12 as well, and, you see them navigating, body image phases and stages, and kind of navigating food, and, um, just trying, even if we're still trying to figure this out for ourselves
Yeah.
professionally, it's like, how do we instill those really good basic habits that, yeah, you need to eat? Like my daughter, she'll walk a little over a mile home from school, and so she's starving, by the time school's out, so she packs a couple snacks, one for her friend, and they walk home
Oh.
and they eat their snack, and I was like, "Yeah." I mean, we always make sure she has a snack after swim practice, things like that, like, it's inadvertent because she's hungry, but it's,
Hmm.
yeah, you need to eat, you just did some work, and you need to feel your body, and you're building bones, you're getting taller, those sorts of things, and hope to God that that continues to push forward, because if I think back, into high school, if we were I mean, that information just wasn't available, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd be starving after practice, and thank God my mom
Yeah.
had a, big steaming plate of food when I got home, but was I gonna make that for myself? No. I got
No.
lucky.
Yeah, 100%. And also, given the fact we've both established we're slightly older, heroin chic was a real thing in the
Oh,
UK.
it's
We all wanted
back.
to look like Kate Moss. And now with all of the
Yeah.
GLP-1
Yep.
medication, or the
Yeah.
Ozempic and
Yeah.
Mounjaro,
Yep.
oh my goodness. I feel it as a perimenopausal woman.
Yes.
Holy moly. I am feeling the pressure to kind of like
Mhm.
suddenly miraculously lose weight in 6 weeks
Yeah.
thanks to this magic
Yeah.
injection. And it feels like it's all coming back. And so
It
now
is.
they've got to kind of navigate all of
Yep.
this,
Yep.
when I really feel like we just turned a corner with this,
I
and we're right back in it.
totally agree. No, I saw Michelle Lyons was talking recently about her. She's given a class in, like,
Yeah,
GLP-1s or something like that. I'm like, I need
yeah.
to chat with her. I've got a couple clients, that are navigating that, and there's obvious GI issues and things like that, but I've also been running into diminished
Gosh.
muscle tone,
Yeah, I bet.
and, like, not just, like, feeling it, like, wow, you feel very different than you felt, a couple months ago, and you feel like I'm working on somebody who's old and deconditioned, even though you've been
Oh,
weight
wow.
training, and that's when I'm like, "Ooh, we need to
It's
understand this a little
frightening.
bit more." So, but to your point, I mean, like, everything that's old is new again. I mean, my daughter was talking about, she's like, "Oh, bell bottoms, this is the new thing now." I was like, "Honey, that was new in the '70s." I was like, what was the other one? It was like, Oh, do you remember those, like, necklaces that were, like, super tight
Oh,
around your neck?
chokers.
Chokers. She's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
chokers." I was like, "Yeah, I was wearing a choker
Oh
in,
my
what was it,
God. We're so old.
1999."
Oh, so was I. I thought I was so cool. Oh my God.
You were
Everything's going
cool.
full circle. Yeah, we were really cool.
Yeah,
But everything is coming full circle. And
yeah,
unfortunately, so too is this sort of expectation yet
yeah,
again, more so on women to look a certain way.
right.
And it's frightening. And yes, of
Yeah,
course, the impact is going to have on our connective tissues, well, and our
yeah,
bones. Oh my God. It's
yeah.
frightening. It really, really is.
But again, like, I think, as we're taking this information in as professionals, if you're listening to this, if you're just a mom and you're listening and your kids are little, these things are going to come back around again. And, we
Yeah.
all want to be good examples for our kids and things like that. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be, they don't necessarily have to have a clear understanding at age 3 why they need to fuel. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we're continuing to change, kids notice that. They notice you hydrating, they notice you having, a
Yes.
quick snack before you go to the gym or something like that, and that becomes normal. And that can play into bone health, that can play into some of these other things, obviously lactate. And I think just those basic things that we keep coming back to are so valuable. Um, but it's really cool to watch how in pro sports, they're paying attention to this, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. It's
medically it matters.
definitely oh, massively. It's a key piece of the jigsaw. There is a
Yeah,
new nutritionist in 6 days a week,
yeah,
that she is she's an essential part of the MDT.
yeah.
And I mean, the amazing smoothies and everything she makes for the players is,
I
oh
want
my
to.
God. I
Okay,
want to be her. Well, I want to be a player, to be honest, because if I had someone cooking for me and programming me, I'd be like, this is a good life. This is a
okay. The
really good life.
the actual question: do you want a chef or do you want a housekeeper?
Oh God, I hate cleaning the bathrooms, but I but I would go. Oh, I think I'd go chef if you're going to offer it to me at the same price. I'd go with chef. I
Well,
think.
you don't have to pay for either. You can only have one or the other.
I'd
But
go chef. What would
I
you
think I
go?
would too. I think so.
Yeah,
I
because I
think so.
hate cooking as well. I'm a rubbish cook. I get bored of coming up with different things. So,
That's the
and
worst
I would love
decision of
to
my
know that
day.
it's all. Yeah, me too. And
Mhm.
just to know, I mean, where are you going after this? You're going to the shops to buy food, aren't you?
Right.
Because you're about to have a snowstorm. I know this because we've been speaking before.
We
But
have.
how wonderful just have someone cook your food. Oh yes,
Mhm.
please. I'll take it.
Mhm.
Sold.
Okay. All right. We've settled that. Or we do this. You're a chef, or you get a chef, I get the housekeeper, and we share
We can share.
when I come move to the UK.
Location might be an issue, but hey, we'll worry about that another
I'm
time.
willing to make it work. I'm willing to figure it out to
Come on
make it
over.
work.
We'd love to have you here.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, since we're into like quick fire questions, at the end of every
Oh, God.
episode, we've got a couple. We've just added a new one.
Oh,
Um,
great.
well, now that we figure you want the chef, what's a book you're reading or podcast that you're listening to right now?
Well, I am a bit of a dabbler. I'm a bit of a geeky podcast listener too. So I
Okay.
listen to yours. I listen to Michelle Lyons.
Nice.
I love her podcast, and I still listen to Laurie Fawnon's pelvic health
Yes.
podcast.
Yep.
So that's my professional podcast, and my enjoyment podcast. I've just listened to. You must know him, Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh yes.
Oh
Yep.
my God, the guy's
Okay.
amazing. And he's just done a series on his revisionist history
Oh.
called The Alabama Murders. It's a
Mm.
5-part series. It's
Okay.
probably the first 3 episodes. I was like, okay, I'm okay listening to this. The last, maybe it's 6 parts. The last 2 or 3, I bawled my eyes out. It's all
Okay.
about, unfortunately, death penalty and in the US and what happened in Alabama. It's a must listen to, in my opinion, but it's
Okay.
very sad.
Okay. There's a lot of things that I avoid because current events, because I can only take so much trauma in the day. But I think it's
Don't listen
important.
to that.
Well, no, because I think it's important to revisit our history and even some of our literature, because you might find some themes. Next question.
That was sorry to give you that joyful response.
All good, all good. No, it's funny. I go back and forth with my podcasts on, do you guys have Spotify over there that you have like
Yes.
your, okay. So, What was your top series, like, in your Wrapped for 2025?
As in, songs
Or no,
or
not song
artists?
well, I'll take songs too, but, like, what podcasts, or do you not listen on Spotify?
I don't. I normally listen on Apple Podcast.
Oh, well, what did Apple Podcasts say were your
I didn't look. I looked for my top songs for Spotify.
okay, well, what was your top
Sorry,
song?
Benson Boone.
My daughter loves Benson Boone.
Yes. I took my daughter to see him in concert. Oh my
That's
god, the
right, I
guy's amazing.
remember. Yep.
If I were 20 years younger,
I
we'd
he
be
doesn't do
dating.
it for me. He doesn't no, he
He's a bit
doesn't do
too
it for me.
small. Don't let my husband hear this.
Okay, alright. No, I my daughter listens to him, and then there's a guy who's, like, really tall, and he's to me, they look the same. They both look like they have, like, llama fur on their head.
Oh my
My son
god, what
doesn't
is
have a llama
that?
my son does not have llama hair. Um, oh my
I
god, what is
can't.
his name? But she likes him. Anyway, whatever. No, mine was because I play, music in the background in the office off my Spotify, so it was, like, whatever that, like,
Mm.
ambient stuff, but, like, legitimately, I think when I went to, Vancouver and was with Sinead in Vancouver, I think I must have played Taylor Swift's album, like, 70,000
Oh,
times in the road trip, so
she was my second,
okay.
particularly Opalite. Love that one.
Yes! So
Great
good.
album,
So
great
good.
album.
So
God, I
good.
sound like I'm a 15-year-old.
Well, no, but that's the music we have to listen to because of our children,
Yeah.
so
Blame it on the kids, blame it on the kids.
although I distinctly remember back in the radio days, they played, like a Virgin Madonna on the radio, and it was, like, on the Hot 8 at 8 countdown, and I was so embarrassed, and also probably didn't understand what a virgin was at that point anyway. My mom's like, she'd shut it right off. Sorry, mom.
Oh, yeah.
And I not a fan of, like, Tone Loc, Funky Cold Medina, not sure if you guys had that one.
Oh, don't know that.
Um, yeah, just, I'll send it to you, you can listen to the words, but, like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that my mom was like, "Nope, we're not listening to that," and now there's stuff that, like, I'll explain
Oh,
it to
I'm
my
like that with
daughter,
my
like
kids.
well, what I'll do is I'll be like, "Do you know what that song's about?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "It's about sex." And she's like, "No, I
Oh,
don't."
you're so disgusting. Don't talk to me about sex. Yeah, we're in those conversations at the moment.
All right, so, that being said, we're gonna update this question. What's your favorite activity? I'm not gonna say since becoming a mom, what's the favorite activity with? Because your kids are 12 and
12 and 10.
10. Okay, yeah, so you're just a hair behind me. What's your favorite activity mom life in this season right now?
To do with them.
It doesn't have to be.
Oh, it doesn't have to be. You
No.
know what? This is so boring, and I don't think my answer is ever going to be hugely different. It is just to go for a run on my own, out
Yes.
in the woods without any podcast or music at the moment.
Mm.
I just need quiet at the moment. I'm just really enjoying the vague bit of birdsong we have in the middle of the winter in
Yeah.
the UK. I just need it. It's just wonderful for my mental health.
Yeah, you have posted some amazing, like, running countryside pictures that just look
Just-
so like, any I'm like, "Heart, heart, yes."
there she is again
No, but
in the
it's
woods on her
so
own.
peaceful.
So
Um,
nice.
there's a couple books I read every winter. Catherine May, who wrote Wintering, I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Oh yeah,
She's a UK
yes.
author. And one of the books, I think it's The Electricity of Every Living Thing, she walks along a coast somewhere in I don't know my UK, like, geography at
Where
all.
did I haven't read the book, but I've heard of it. Where does she
Okay.
do you know where she walks along?
No, but I'll send it to you. And so she
Yeah.
talks about this countryside and walking along the coast, and she basically takes a year to do this whole section of this trail that goes along a coast.
Oh, wow.
And it when I see your pictures, granted you're not on a coast, but, like, it's that countryside that we just don't have
Mm.
here,
We're so
and it
lucky.
just
We're
looks
so lucky.
delightful.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty dreamy. I mean, it does a lot for me.
yeah,
Yeah, I actually don't know what I'd do without it, to be
yeah,
honest. It's really an important it's all of that kind of foresting, that
yeah,
mindfulness and
yeah,
what forest bathing.
yeah,
Um, I'm a huge fan. I think it's really important. It helps my mental health for sure.
yeah, yeah. No, I think
Definitely
so.
recommend it.
Are you training for anything right now or no?
I have a 12K, only a 12K run in 2 weeks' time, but I've had loads of problems with my hamstrings, loads of hamstring
Oh,
tendinopathies, courtesy of the perimenopause, I think.
uh,
Um, so do you know what? My running now has become more about running
yep,
rather than a PB or an
Yeah.
event. An event just keeps me a bit, it makes me accountable, makes me get out
Yep.
there, but, I just don't want the pressure. I'm past the
Yeah.
pressure at the moment.
Yep.
So, what have you
Yep.
got? Oh, no, hang
That
on, you're
was
marathon training.
I'm doing a half in March,
Oh,
and I've done it before, and I'm back and forth about whether or not, and it's the one that I did a couple years ago, whether or not I wanna mess with time or not, because last year I had my 2nd hip labral tear. It wasn't surgical, which was fantastic. I was able to rehab it. It feels great.
okay.
Um,
Wow, well
and
done.
so now it's like I don't wanna feel like I'm slogging through molasses, and so doing some speed work and having a little something to work towards, I think helps me kinda push a little bit more with that. So I don't like the pressure either of like, "Oh, I'm trying
Mm.
to PR this or do whatever," but, like, I think having a little structure after having over a year of not,
Yes,
we'll
it's
see.
needed. Yeah.
But throw this potential upcoming snowstorm in, and it's supposed to be quite cold, and that's the problem around here, is ice. But we do have an amazing trail system in the DC area, and they get out with little plowy things,
Oh,
and
wow.
because they're commuter routes, and they do a decent job. I would actually prefer to go out and ski, but, by the time I get out there, they usually have it all cleaned up, which is really not
Oh,
appropriate for a city. So, it
shame.
is what it is. We'll take
Oh, I think you
we'll
sound
take
like you're doing an amazing job with your running. You just gotta keep, yeah, I think it's really hard.
It's
I've
just
gone
showing
through
up,
real
though.
bad times with it. It is,
Yeah,
it's just, do you know what it is? It's consistency.
it
Um,
is.
and it's even on those cold days,
Yep. I
having that,
actually
right, you
prefer
know what?
those.
I do as well a bit. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
something, and you feel so smug when you get back as well.
you do. I love that you said that in your accent because it makes it sound even better. But no, there's so few people out there, and around here, everybody kinda, like, looks head down, but when it's a bad weather, people will actually say hello to each other, and so there's this, like, camaraderie that comes with, "It's pouring rain," or, "There's 3 feet of snow, and you're out here too."
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it is. It's totally smug, but, like, you feel a little better than someone
A
else.
bit better.
I love that.
Okay.
I love that.
Sma
Alright,
smashing it.
okay. Who is someone in your space we should know about? You get extra points if we haven't had them on the podcast yet.
Oh my God, there's so many incredible people in my space. I feel bad just saying one, but I'm going to recommend Evie Casagrande to you.
I've
She is
heard that
a
name.
she's dreamy. She is a performance coach. She
Mhm,
is ex-footballer, used to play for Brazil,
mhm.
used to coach Brazil women's Brazil, and Northern Ireland. I'm going to get that right. Yep, Northern
Okay.
Ireland. And she now has gone it on her own and is now training coaches to train women footballers the way women footballers should be trained, not
Wow.
as men.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
and you will love her. She is brilliant, and she's part of our FIFA perinatal group. And she's just a lovely person.
That
So
helps.
you need her on your pod
Okay.
and in your space
I
too.
love that. That was a hard question because we have a lot of crossover between the 2 of us
I
over the
know,
years, so
but
well
I'm
done,
thinking of
extra
someone you
points.
don't know. You
Yeah,
told me someone I didn't know. So
yeah.
that, because now I'm feeling worried about all the people we know collectively, like all of them.
You just want all of them. All good.
Feeling very hot.
I usually finish with what does it mean to you to be an active mom, but I kinda wanna switch this up, is like, when are we gonna be in the same hemisphere again? When are we like, I know you're happy being an active mom. We've already asked you that. When are we like,
When
what's
are
next
we?
for you?
What did
I
you message me about the other day? What was it that
oh
you said? "Oh, are you
gosh.
going there?" And I thought, "Oh, I want to go there," but no, I'm not. Oh, it was well, what was it?
Was it
Something
menopause
about,
conference?
it was a conference, but I can't remember which one.
Yeah. No,
But when will I see you?
I wish we could all go to Australia for the
Oh,
female athlete
the
one.
WISC.
Yeah,
Yes.
that would be cool, but I don't
The
think I
one
could
where
swim
the
that.
almighty Rita won, a
Yes!
competition to
Yep,
do
and I think I
her
saw
tour.
Margie's going,
Margie's going as
which
well.
is
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, I'd love
Yeah,
to tell you it'll be there, but it won't be because I can't afford to go there.
same, same. Okay, so definitely Boston next year, or
Yeah,
2027. But yeah, I
100%.
I feel like that was one of the coolest things about the Female Athlete Conference, was getting to meet so many of you in person, and what the funniest thing is you've literally like, I was nervous the night before, I'm like, "What if they don't like me?"
I said the same to you, I think.
Right? And it's just like and you just go up and you just give somebody a hug, like, you're just like, "Oh, I just"
Yeah,
I talk to you all the time, and it's one of those things where it's just that I think that that's one of the coolest unexpected things about being in this space, and the coolest thing about, if you're talking about good things that came out of that, like, COVID era where we were, forced to be much more, online and
for
meeting other
sure.
people is there's no other way that this would have happened, and just
No,
to find not only, like-minded, professionals, but, like, other moms that are in it with you and other runners and, like, that kinda stuff, and it's just been an absolute gift, um, and then we get to have conversations like this and talk about
mm,
what's next, and, 5 years from now, we'll be like, "Hey, remember when we said we didn't have anything back then? Here's what we have
mhm.
now."
Oh my God,
Which is we've
I
been able
cannot
to do
wait.
that. Yeah.
Well, do your guests ever end on a question to you?
No, but I'm willing to try that. Yeah.
Can I flip it up and
Yeah, go
say,
for it. Yeah.
um, when are you going to publish some research? Because I feel like you are just a phenomenal
You're so sweet.
source of knowledge, an amazing clinician.
Yeah.
But I want to see some work that you're going to be
You know what? That
publishing.
would be I've been talking to mutual colleagues of ours, and I think you're a lovely inspiration of how to walk the line of the clinician mind versus the research mind. And I think as a clinician, one of the hardest thing is to have that research mentality and be able to understand those things in that way. And I think what I've realized is you don't necessarily have to understand it as the researchers do, but be able to translate and interpret and kind of
Yes.
understand
And
enough.
ask the questions. You ask the questions that
Yeah.
people want to know,
Yeah.
rather than, I mean, there's so many amazing researchers that don't do that,
Oh my
but
gosh,
there are
yeah.
many that do.
Yep.
And I just think you are so curious and you are so brilliant. Like,
You're
you
so
would be
sweet.
coming up with some phenomenal questions that I would love
I
to know the answer
I'm
to.
I'm open to it. I'm open to if somebody wants to take the newbie and, tuck me under their wing, and I will do the very best I can not to cry, but bring forth good questions.
Or
I know
you've
my
planted a
limits.
seed.
I
You've
that
planted a seed.
I think, it's funny that you asked that because I think, 25, 26 years into this, I'm on the second half,
Hmm, hmm.
and looking at what are you gonna be okay like, is there anything else that you wanna do before you step away or, are you gonna walk away and be like, "Ah, I wish I would've done that," whatever, and that's
Yeah,
that's
right.
that's probably the one thing that it would be really cool to do to be and it's funny, I was talking to Christina about this, you'll get a chuckle, and I was like, "I don't care if I'm last on the paper," and then she's like, "You won't be." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so this is just how naive I am, and if you don't know this, that this is gonna come across really funny. She's like, "No, the last person on the paper is the one who runs the lab." I was like,
Hmm.
"I did not know that." And she's like, "So no, you will never be the last person on the
Yeah.
paper."
I never knew that either until, so here's a fun fact for you. You know the Return to Running Guidelines?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We Grania and I didn't know this rule, okay? So we thought, well, we'll just chuck my name at the end
Yeah.
because,
Oh, you're so
you know,
funny.
and we put Tom at the top, and actually, it really should have gone respectfully to Tom. Me is the first, Tom, and then Gronya leading at the end. And the funny thing is, I then started getting all these emails. Emma, can you come and speak at this conference
You're
because you've written this?
kidding.
And I was emailing Gronya going, this is so weird and awkward, but I keep getting asked to do these talks. And actually, we made a decision that Grania and I would go together to do the
Mhm.
talks at that time. And we didn't realize it's because I was chucked at the end. And we just done that as a, oh, that'll do. I was like, chuck me at the
Isn't
end. It
that
doesn't matter.
right.
I don't care where I
Or
go. Well,
alphabetical or whatever.
I absolutely nearly gave myself way too much credit for that. So just to kind of rewrite
That
history
makes me
there,
feel
it shouldn't have
better.
been me there. I should have just been chucked in the middle, or maybe at the first. But hey,
Mhm.
listen, you will be one day a last author, I'm sure. But I definitely think Rita, Shafali, Margie, we should do something together.
Get the gang
Potentially.
together.
Yeah,
And you know what?
why not?
We
I think we
already
should.
have we already have our cover photo for our album, right? Like,
Yeah,
do you remember
we
that picture?
do. Love that picture. Yes, we do.
It was
I
so fun.
definitely think we should think about it.
Yeah,
So
we gotta get the gang
I'm
together.
I'm I'm,
I
I'm
love that.
starting that ball rolling, that
All right.
snowball rolling.
I like it. You put it out into the universe. We'll see what comes back. All right. If you guys want to know more about Emma and all the fun stuff that she's doing and research and clinical work and FIFA and all the things, you can find her over on Instagram, PhysioMom UK. Thank you.
Oh,
I miss
thanks for
you.
having me. I miss you
Happy New
too.
Year. All the good stuff. Good things
Happy
for
New
the new
Year. Enjoy
year.
your show.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hoping. And I can't wait for what's to come for you next and can't wait for our next chat.
Likewise.
If you're navigating pregnancy, postpartum, or perimenopause, whether personally or professionally, check out all our free resources and upcoming courses at carriepagliano.com. This podcast reflects the opinions of Dr. Carrie Pagliano and her guests, and it is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider with any medical questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. And thanks for listening.